Some things work better in pairs.
In fact, without a partner, some things don't make much sense at all. Maybe it's weak to rely on others. Maybe you should be able to go it alone. But I don't know. One is, after all, the loneliest number. So here's a little reminder about how two can sometimes be better than one.
In the last couple of videos I've made, I've been talking about how I've been making pairs of images, or diptychs if you prefer. I want to go a little bit more into that today and talk about two of the major parts of the image pairing process itself. What to look for in a pair, and how to find it. But let's start with what to look for. I think there are a few things to look for when making image pairs that truly resonate. And I think there are also probably a couple things that are maybe better to avoid, or at the very least, it's worth it to be aware of them. So I'll mention some of those too. I'll take all my examples today from volume 5 of my Zine a month project, Serial Music. So yeah, just give me a second to get this all set up. So the simplest way of making image pairs is repetition. And by that, I mean repetition of shape or color. In this case, there's a bit of repetition in the shape and these like sort of lines behind this man and here in this wire. And there's also like a very similar color palette between the two images. This is like a sort of soft blue, this is quite gray, with these little bits of red that are popping out. So the thing to keep in mind about using repetition in making image pairs for your book or your zine is that if you do it too much, it can become a little bit dull. The reader will just sort of learn exactly what to expect every single time. And it's maybe not like the most thoughtful way to make an image pair, but because of the just simple visual appeal, it is nice to sprinkle your sequence with pairs that are built based on repetition. Just as like a kind of visual treat for the reader. Okay, so the second kind of image pair that I like to make is one where the images communicate with each other. What I mean by communicate is that there is something in the first image that points you to the second image, and then something there that points you back to the first. And ideally you can sort of sustain this bouncing back and forth for a little while. So for this image, the place I sort of intend people to start is by looking at the water here, because this bucket is the brightest part of any of these images. So it sort of has its own little bit of gravity. And then from there, the water leaks down to this grate, and the grate, just in color and shape and sort of pattern, is visually very similar to these stairs. So I kind of move across on a plane, at least my eyes do, and then they move up from dark to light to this wall, which is pointing back towards the bucket. So it's created a kind of circle of movement for my eyes. There's also something, I guess, going on between like this half is light and this half is dark, this half is light and this half is dark, that has like a visual balance that sort of also encourages your eyes to move from side to side. But yeah, when I made this pair, these were some of the things that I was thinking of. Not to mention the fact that this water is running into the drain and these stairs are leading down into water as well. So the thing to remember about making image pairs like this is you can't guarantee anybody else's eyes will move in the exact same way yours will. All you can really do is hope that that will happen. And also you can kind of, I guess maybe this isn't the best word, but you can sort of train your viewer by the way that you've been making image pairs in the sequence to be used to your thought process. And this can encourage them to look at the pairs in the way that you sort of hope that they will. What I like about pairs that communicate in this way is that the more time you spend looking at them, the more interesting they become. And even if the viewer doesn't necessarily pick it up the first time they see the image, it's like these little relationships are there, just like sort of little gems waiting to be found. So the next kind of image pair that I like to try and make is one that has the quality of time passing, like a kind of before and after effect. What I like about making an image pair based on the quality of time is that it kind of brings the middle space between the two images into focus. Like the time between the first image and the second image, that becomes a part of the meaning that you find in the image. In order to interpret an image pair like this, your brain just has to work in a slightly different way than it did from the other image pairs. And even though the effect is subtle, I think that it goes a long way to keeping readers interested in your images and in what you've made with them. The fourth kind of image pair that I want to talk about is when there is a poetic connection between your images. These image pairs make connections that are unfamiliar and hopefully kind of new, and they just make a certain kind of sense. These kinds of image pairs can be pretty odd, but I just love that feeling of, I don't think I've seen this before, but somehow it just feels right. The thing to remember about making pairs like this is that one man's poetry is another man's eye roll. You can't always guarantee these kinds of pairs will land the way that you hope, but if you build your readers up to it by the image pairs that you've been making throughout, there's a good chance that the more evocative and less concrete image pairs will land. There are definitely more ways to make image pairs than the 4 that I've mentioned in this video. If you have any suggestions that you think would either be helpful for me or for anyone else who might be into it, please drop them in the comments below. Okay, that's it for part 1 of this video. Part 2 will be out in a few days. A pair of videos. There's a subliminal frame somewhere in part 1, and there will be another one in part 2. If you take those 2 frames and put them together, there's a message in there. Send me an Instagram DM with what that message says, and the first 5 people that do it, I'll send you a free print anywhere in the world. So yeah, keep an eye out for part 2. Cheers.